113 of Rural Reliance with the Canny Couple. I'm Julia.
And I'm Aaron.
We are a small homestead family in rural Southwest Virginia that work every single day to merge homesteading and frugality, reducing our dependencies on outside sources. Today we want to talk about something that we have had to learn the hard way. Very much hard way. Even recently, like a couple months back, I had to learn this the hard way.
What would that be on?
The dishwashing soap, the dishwashing powder.
Very true.
I trusted one source, and then I trusted others, and it still didn't work for me. So,
No.
But we'll talk about that in a minute. But what we want to talk about is doing research for yourself.
Don't trust all the... Don't... I'm trying to think how to say this nicely.
There's a lot of self-promotion and a lot of stuff to generate interest. And a lot of times we jump into things because this is the way the world works today. We jump into things, think it's going to work for us. It's going to be amazing. We have fallen for this trap. Mm-hmm. A lot of others have fallen for this trap. And you might make a lot of mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
And we would be the first one to tell you we've had more failures than successes. But we have learned the hard way how to do things a better way, and we have learned for researching anything we're going to do, any project, any handyman item we're going to do, anything. You don't trust just one source.
No, you've got to definitely look around, and it could be maybe that place you're looking at, for example, is where all of the paid people for the free products are doing reviews for the free products in exchange.
Just things you have to think about. So, I mean, there are information sites people we follow that are great. Mm-hmm. But we have had to learn the hard way not to take everything at their word.
Right.
Like, we've had to learn, okay, this is a great recipe. This is a wonderful idea. How do we take this and expand this to something else and make it even better for us? Or is it actually going to work for us? We don't just trust that one source. But there's a lot of really good sources out there. But there's also
very bad ones.
Yeah. But another thing with good sources, they might be area or zone specific.
Especially when you're looking
at homesteading.
Permaculture,
anything. Yeah.
Stuff like that. You might be like, oh, I need this variety of plum. Well, this variety of plum does better in zone 3 and 4 than it does on 6 and 7%.
I'm thinking swells. We were on the swell bandwagon.
Well, we don't have flat lands, our issue.
Well, no. Until we started doing our research and we started looking and hearing and seeing that swells were not actually going to work on our property.
Right.
Because you hear all about permaculture. Swells are the thing. They are like, if you have the right property, if the right angles, you don't have, but when you're steep, a swell's just not going to work.
No. It's
just not going to work. It's not supposed to work on that. But terracing is a better option, which is why we've chosen terracing for our front yard.
Yep.
So that's a great example. So you have to look at your area, you have to look at your zone, all of those things. Your property, or even the ingredients you have if you're doing a recipe.
Or what we've been looking at a lot lately is what is good for you and what is bad for you type of thing.
Toxic versus non-toxic, yep.
And, see it from a few sources, bad, see it from a few sources, okay, type of thing. We're always researching, looking into it more to see,
what makes the most sense for us.
Right. Or is something like, for example, one I was looking at, are they just trying to continuously put out content? So I just go into the next obvious item and say it is bad for you, for example, whether it is or not. So that's why you have to do your research and actually find out.
Yes. And like Aaron was saying, there's just people out there that are crazy trying to get money. Like, the craziest things. And I say this is more in side hustle and creating passive income streams. I'd say this is where right now
agree with
it has gotten insane. Like, okay, you go and you open up this LLC business loan and you borrow $50,000 and then you're going to go and do this and this and this and then you're going to have another $400,000. Like,
this this is you haven't seen it that bad though on X
Is it that
slash
bad
Twitter.
It's on X.
No, it is very bad.
It's worse on X.
It's worse on X. So there's people constantly coming up telling you, especially like with real estate, get in debt, massive amounts of debt, and buy 20 houses, and then stuff like that.
We're told this is a passive form of income. And it can be if you hire somebody to do the property management. And most people our age don't have that kind of cash that they can put forward for property management. So you're dealing with all of it yourself.
Yeah.
And that's just crazy. But there's a lot of people who made a lot of money. But I think the thing of it is that's fewer and further between than the people who have sunk a lot of money into these types of houses. I'm thinking of a flipper house that's down the road from us in town.
It has been,
they've been working on this house
for
4 years.
It might be
4 or 5 years.
Well, no, let's see. So
it was before Isabel.
So that'd be 3 years.
It was probably a year before then. They've been working on this house, babe. Well, they've been working on this house for a really long time.
We'll say 3 to 4 years.
It's been at least 3 to 4 years that they have been working on this house. It's a tiny house. Itsy bitsy, maybe 2 bedroom, 1 bath.
Right. I mean, very small. But you can tell, they got into it big to begin with. And from that point forward, it's just must be whenever they have cash flow to do something.
What it reminds me of is a First Time Flipper, that show.
Oh, it does.
It does. It reminds me of that show, First Time Flipper. And it takes them a year to do the house, to flip the house. I feel like a lot of people don't realize it's so much worse. And they're like, it's so easy. You can invest in all these Airbnbs and you could just bring in $10,000 a month off of one Airbnb. I'm sorry.
You got to do your research and all this stuff.
You do. And there's people who make money at it. But there's a lot of risk when it comes to
there
these
is.
things.
Especially like in the areas, like for Airbnbs, for example. Like you see about some areas, it's so oversaturated.
Well, now people could squat in them. No. You have squatters who are getting the Airbnbs.
I've seen that.
So, there's some crazy things out there. And what we're here to talk about is why research is important and how you can help simplify your research. Because we understand it gets daunting. When Aaron's like, you need to look this up, I'm like, okay.
It's like, I've seen this, see what you can find.
like I'm done at this point, okay. But normally what he's asking me to do is he's asking me to search for it in a way that I would think of it.
Well, usually when I say that, I am like, tell me what you find. So I don't even tell her what I've researched. I'm like, see what you see about this. And then we'll compare notes.
Yes. So we really think you should focus on learning and researching for yourself. Not just taking everything in everybody's word, even ours.
Yep.
Even though we feel like we really got our budgeting down pat, we still watch budgeting. We watch Under the Median. I listen to other YouTubers out there talking about budgeting and saving money just to find a tip. And I don't always agree with what they're saying. But I always look for those little tidbits that I can take and apply to our situation. And now I feel like since I've got a handle, especially on our grocery budget, those tidbits are fewer and further between.
It is.
It's so much harder for me to find it because we aren't eating the same foods we were eating before. We're not doing the same things we were doing before. So these tips to help me save money don't apply anymore because I'm still staying under budget. But I'm feeding my family foods I feel better about because we've made this change as a family.
Right.
So it's been harder. But you should always be learning and researching for yourself. It is a growth opportunity.
Right. That's what I was going to say. It helps you grow. It helps you learn more. It helps you, think outside of the box more.
Aaron's not the same man he was when we first met. I'm not the same woman I was when we first met. We've grown, and we've grown together by learning and doing things, getting irritated with one another, and learning to deal with it.
Yep.
So, sources should be used as inspiration as well. If we tell you something, we don't tell you to do it verbatim.
No.
I'm telling you, think of this, and then take it, run with it, make it your own. I'm trying to inspire you to do something absolutely amazing that works for your family because your family's not like ours. And our family is not like most homestead families.
Right.
We're very
Right.
small. We don't have 5, 10 kids.
Right. I mean, because it was, you know,
It was one was enough.
right. And we didn't start the homestead journey when, like you've heard us say before, when most people did. It was just something when we decided when we wanted to be more self sufficient, replace some old apple trees, and then it grew from there.
It just exploded into an orchard and then kind of homesteading and gardening. And we made a lot of mistakes and we took inspiration from a lot of other people and got better in a lot of areas. And now I'm taking even more inspiration. I'm thinking of like the hay bale method of gardening.
The
Ruth.
Hudiculture type
Yeah.
you talking about building it up on the hay
No,
bale?
the
Oh, no.
one I
Okay.
showed you,
Okay.
the Ruth. I cannot think of her last name. But where you use hay as your mulch and everything, you just throw it down, garden, and it handles it. Problem is in our area, we cannot get untreated hay.
Right.
It has been sprayed. We cannot get anything that is not been, blasted.
Yep.
So how do I make this work for us? It's what I'm trying to think. How can I take this idea and make it work in our area and make it work for us?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm taking inspiration from somebody else, seeing if I can't make it work on our homestead in a way that's going to help us thrive and do better.
Mm-hmm.
And also keep us frugal, because I don't want to spend $1,000 trying to keep a weed-free garden every single year. It's
Right,
not worth
right.
it. I could
Not
take
worth it.
$1,000 and just go buy a whole bunch of fruits and vegetables,
Yeah.
and it'd be a lot less work for me on the front end.
It's true.
I really could.
Yeah.
Probably cheaper. So let's talk about why it's so important for you to do the research for yourself. So the first point we have here is you learn to spot the bias in what you're looking at, because we're talking about, you can see bias everywhere. It's in books, it's in magazines, it's in the newspaper, it's on social media,
Yep.
it's on YouTube, it's on art, it's everywhere. Everybody is biased about something. We are biased about saving money.
Right.
We have a really hard time when it comes to something to not save money.
Yeah, very true. Like, what's the use for this, or why would we do this? Type of
Why?
thing.
That doesn't make sense. Why would I do that? That's going to cost me extra money.
Right.
Like, we have no problem looking at it like that, or we couldn't afford to do that. We probably could, but we can't afford to do that because it's not helping us save money.
Right. I mean, we say that quite often.
We do. And it's not that we're living in deprivation. It's just that for us, when we look at a situation, we look at it through a frugal lens. Everybody has a lens they look at things through. What you're trying to pull out is the core information. So you learn to spot it. You learn to spot somebody is selling you something.
When I think of this, I always think of the Flex Seal when they stick it on the boat. I'm like, really?
And they dump the boat through the screen on the bottom, and they coat the screen in the Flex Seal, drop it in.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do that or not. We don't really watch infomercials like we used to on Saturday.
That's true.
We'll get to see them anymore. But it's so important to know when you're being sold something, because it's okay to buy it and it's okay to buy into it.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to recognize that you're being sold something.
Yep.
So I've noticed a common marketing thing when you're being sold something, especially by big marketers. And I don't know if a lot of people realize it, but watch your commercials, watch the ads, watch how they do things. You're going to notice that the color of the item is going to be throughout the entire commercial.
Yep.
This includes prescription drugs. The
Yeah.
colors reflect. They're going to have that symbol somewhere. It's going to show up. It's going to be a similar color. If it's yellow, you're going to see yellow everywhere. If it's yellow and blue, there's going to be yellow and blue. Everybody's going to be wearing yellow and blue. Swiffer, everybody's wearing green, or
Yep.
the house is green.
Yeah, it's like your marketing,
It's to catch your eye
Mhm.
and make you think, oh, I need that. It's
Yep.
supposed to help motivate you to buy this stuff.
Mhm.
So everybody does it.
Yep.
Everybody does it. That's what they pay marketing for. That's what it's there for. So you just have to be aware of it. Even like by meal prep, like HelloFresh or anything like that. We have never done this.
Mm-mm.
I can't imagine there'd ever be a case where we would do this.
No.
Unless there's like a dire situation, like Aaron was in charge of all the food and he was like, okay, just send it to the house. I'll be done with it.
That's a dire situation.
It's a very dire situation. All the other prepared food in the house has been gone through at that point. But even things like that, they're catered to make you feel like you're spending less money. You're looking, and we're not saying that these are bad. If this works for you and your family and you have it budgeted for, go for it. Cool. Yep. We're totally cool with that. We think you should spend your money how you want to. But if you're working on paying off debt and you're not aware that you are being sold to, you need to become aware that you're being sold to. And actually, HelloFresh is not better than you just getting up and going to the grocery store yourself.
Right.
That you have to be aware of that. So they're trying to sell you an idea, sell you a product. Even us, we're trying to let you know that you can be frugal. You can homestead. You can do it all. So even we try to sell ourselves to you.
Right. I mean, from the perspective of that it can be done.
That it can be done. So let's talk about the next point that we have. You learn different ways to do things. Everybody does something different.
It does. And a good example is, like homesteading wise, is okay, this is how this person tills the garden. This is how another person tills the garden. I mean, you learn your own research, what works best from you and what disadvantages from no-till to till you might have, for example.
I think seed starting, we learned a lot of different ways to seed start.
We did.
We were researching and watching and trying to figure out the best way to do it when we had the little one, and we were up, for feedings 2 or 3 times in the middle of the night.
We just watched seed start.
We just watched how to seed start. I got good at it.
You did.
I got really good at it. And because we watched all these videos, watched a lot of different homesteaders, a lot of different ideas, and learned what really works best for us. And I took it and went with it. Because I knew certain systems weren't going to work for us.
Right.
It's like, it can't be really hands-on. It kind of have to have hands-off. I kind of have to have something easy, simple setup that works for us. And it's kind of what we came up with. And we've had a lot of success that way. So you want to take the best information that will work for you. That's the goal here. Pull the good stuff that's really going to work. And modify it. Make it work for you. Now, you might have, a lot of people will tell you, no, you can't do that. You have to follow the instructions exactly the way it says. Like, I hate when people tell me that with a recipe.
That's what I was thinking of, a recipe, rather.
I don't follow recipes. Very, very rarely do I follow a recipe. Because most recipes call for things I will not eat. If it calls for an onion or a pepper or anything like that in the food and I'm supposed to be eating, I'm telling you, I've already altered the recipe to take all that out. I could put red pepper flakes in it to give me the heat. I could put a little onion powder in it. That takes care of it. But if I taste an onion in the food, I will not eat it.
She's done. I'm
done. The texture, I'm gone. If I taste if I see a pepper, I'm gone. We're about to try a recipe for a chicken taco soup or a chicken tortilla soup. I just asked Aaron, I said, do you think I could blend up the green chilies so I don't notice them? Because I have a problem. And I know I have a problem. And I try to find solutions around it. And I'm like, because if I see one, I know what I'm going to do and I won't be able to eat it. I just will not. And he's like, I don't know. We could try it. It works with salsa when I make the salsa pasta. Works super well. I blend it up. I don't know that all that other stuff's in there because I can't see it and I don't know it's there. It works for me. But you can take the parts that really work for you and apply it. Now, if you're new to cooking, you've never fried an egg or scrambled an egg, you might need to follow the instructions. But if you've been cooking for a while, you kind of know what to do and how to deal with things and manage.
I would have to follow instructions.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Ask him how he cooks spaghetti. He says he follows instructions. I was making spaghetti, and he's like, he said he was about to throw the spaghetti into the pot. I had just filled the pot up and put it on to boil. And he's like, okay, you just want me to throw this in? I said, no, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to put the spaghetti in the pot so it could cook. I was like, no, the water has to boil. He's like, it does? Yeah, it says it on the box. Boil your water.
I just saw, water and pasta and ta-da.
And then he said, no wonder your pasta tastes so much better than mine. Yeah. So, no, he doesn't read the instructions. So, if you are new to cooking or you are not very familiar, yes. But you can leave out ingredients if you don't like them. Don't be scared to try a recipe because you don't like ingredients. Don't be scared to try something because you can't do something. Just leave that step out if it's possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes you have to follow that step, but make it work for you. I'm thinking of when we do our sugar canes.
You mean our molasses?
Yeah. I'm not sugar cane. I'm sorry. It's
sorghum.
Sorghum, yes. Whenever we cut our sorghum, I guess I was thinking sugar canes because Danny and Wanda came in my head for this. I watched a couple videos, figured out what was going to work for us, and I took that and I made the process that works best for us, not their process.
Right.
And that process has worked really well for us in the past. Okay, the next thing, multiple sources, because it really does matter. This matters. This is where the dishwashing powder, this all-purpose cleaner, and I love the person who put this out. They are wonderful. I trust everything they do. But when they're like, it works for all types of water. All types. I've tested it on all types. Like, I don't think you have. Because it about ruined some of my dishes.
Yeah.
And trying to fix it, I couldn't get it fixed enough to where it still wasn't leaving powdery residue on my dishes. It was messing up all my dishes. I mean, I about lost a whole thing of jars. Yeah. You can still see the etching on the outside. They're clean, but you can still tell where I washed these jars with this powder. And I was frustrated, and this was on me because I didn't check more and I didn't look. I trusted this source. Mm-hmm. And I should have done my own research on this.
Right.
I really should have looked to see what I needed to do. And after that, I realized, okay, I can't make this for myself. I have really hard water, so I have to buy something. And that's just what we have to do. And the one we buy, we are okay with the ingredients. And I only use a little bit, and it lasts a super long time. Probably lasts a year and a half.
Right.
If not longer. Can you think of anything else with that one?
I would say, I mean, maybe the scythe as well. I mean, I've had good uses with it.
The little one you got really good with.
Right, but the big one, it's the motion is hard for me.
It is. It's awkward. It's not natural.
It's awkward for me. The one that William uses off of Permaculture Consultant, he's got an American-made one, so it's heavier. Well, I tried to go with a European one. But
they are different styles. They're very different styles.
It's like straight compared to curved for American. So with
maybe there's a reason the American one's using the Americans and the European ones are using Europe.
Maybe so. I mean, it is one if I had done, I was looking at it from a weight perspective, but if I'd done more research, I might have just stuck with the hand ones.
So that's one of the things we look at a lot when we're about to do things. We do look at weight, carrying, how much we're going to be using it, especially if I'm going to be using the tool. Like, that will be one of the first questions. I was like, how heavy is this tool? Right. So we do look at that quite a bit. Now, frugality-wise, this is just as important. So what this does is it builds your muscles. Builds that muscle for research, because you know what? To be frugal, you have to look up a lot of stuff to find the best deals.
Best deals. Make sure you're not overpaying. Make sure it's quality too when you're looking at it from a frugality standpoint. Because if this thing's only going to last 2 weeks, Well, then you buy another one. The one that costs double the price would have been better, that lasts longer, you know.
Well, this isn't just shopping new. This is shopping used.
Yep.
You need to know what you're looking at if you're shopping used. You need to know the price between new and used. This is something we struggle with a lot in our area because a lot of people think their used stuff is as good as their used stuff, new stuff, and it's just awful. I saw a set of tools for $50, and the store had the same tools for $50, and they worked a lot better than the used pair. And they were the same brand and everything. So it's just one of those things that you really have to know and look at. You kind of learn that as you go through. So if you're looking at antiques, things like that, you're an antique buyer, you kind of learn what you're looking for.
Right.
Same thing with frugality. We learn a good deal. We learn what we're looking for. We learn what we like and what we want. Aaron uses a lot for picking. We kind of know prices on things.
Right. So a good example, this past couple weeks ago here, we stopped at Rose's.
Mm-hmm.
They had men's jeans Wranglers for $11.99.
That's the brand Aaron likes. They fit him the best.
That was a good deal. We know that if we went to another place, these are probably seconds, you know, but we're okay with that. We didn't see anything wrong with them. We
Probably
know
paid $35 to $40.
Well, I mean, even at a deal at another place, it'd probably been $19.99.
Probably.
So, okay, we knew that was a good deal.
We get the best socks there for our little one.
Yeah.
Like the best. We've bought them in other places, but theirs last so much longer, do so much better. I don't know what it is. But we know what to look for at these places, so we're not spending a lot of extra money elsewhere. So we've kind of learned as we've bought things and as we've done things. Now we've bought some duds.
Yeah.
We've had some failures. But what do? We learn from those failures. We do our research. We find things that work for us. I always say some of the biggest failures have been like tools. Like one was a trench badger. That was such a massive fail for us.
We did get a defective one begin with, but we did figure out it wasn't what we needed either.
No, it wasn't. It was too difficult to use.
I think of a recent one from you is we had a few ants coming into the kitchen.
Yep.
So bought these little things that you plug into the sockets.
That was awful. Well, okay, I was told by somebody that this worked. These worked. I even heard it online. These work. These help keep them out of your... No, they didn't. I'm about to throw these things out the door.
You've still got a couple more plugged up somewhere. But
I don't know if they work on the mice, though. I don't know. But, well, we don't have seen any mice around the house. Knock on wood. But for the ants, we ended up having to go get bait traps because I was not having ants on my kitchen counters. There's things I don't do. Now, the gnats I've been able to take care of.
Mm-hmm.
This year I've handled those very well. A little bit of apple cider with a mother in it. Water and soap, and buddy, that attracts them better than anything I have ever seen. I think it's the mother.
It might be.
Because we've not had the problems we've had in the past. With all the tomatoes and stuff we've had on the table for months now.
Yep.
We've not had nearly the issues we've had in the past.
As I just saw one fly.
Well, there's only one or two.
I know. But
there's
funny.
not the 20, 30 that you can get in the house during this time of the year. That's just part of living on a homestead. And having fresh fruit. But I will also say the bananas being in the refrigerator probably helps too.
That is true because we usually had those out all the time, and now where we've got those in, because, I always remember growing up, you always made a gnat trap out of using banana peel,
Okay, so the other thing you need to the other reason you need to do your own research is you can learn from other people's errors, their mistakes. You can learn what does not work with, like, that was a frugal fail. That was stupid. Like, really? I wouldn't do that. Yeah, well, you learn from us. Just what it is. You can learn from a lot of people, from their own failures, their own mistakes. Because not only are they learning from them, they're sharing that with you so you can learn too.
Yeah.
We learn from our mistakes. We really try to look at it and be like, okay, how can we do this better? how can we make this better? We have a lot of mistakes, so that's our big goal, is to try to make sure we're doing the best that we can. And we're not making those same mistakes. And sometimes we do. Sometimes life happens, life takes control, and we make those mistakes. But we really try not to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we know this can get overwhelming. You're like, Julia, I ain't got any more time in my day to handle this crap. I know I don't. Eric doesn't either.
Right.
But there are some things you can do to help cut back the time. And I would say the very first thing you need to do is narrow your focus. Don't go and type in how to start a homestead.
You're going to get so many.
You're going to get you're so overwhelmed with them. Like, how to start going non-toxic. I want to create a non-toxic house. Where do I start? When you start getting to this, it will scar you and scare you and keep you up at night with all the stuff that's out there, whether it's real or not. You can't help it. You're like, I've killed my family. I'm killing my family.
Like today, I was like, look at this one. Our toilet paper's toxic. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
I was like, okay, I'll find a better alternative after we use this up. Like, okay, we'll start getting a better alternative to work through it after we do the research and look into it ourselves.
Right. That one there was like, just a one-time thing we saw. So it's something we do have to say, hey, is it just certain brands, or what?
I do look for things that are fewer ingredients, like my dish soaps, all of that. Like, I can't get anything that's super perfect and ideal because we have really hard water. It will clog us up. It causes problems and won't get us clean. I have to be very careful with that. And I'm not really going to rewash dishes.
Right.
I don't have the patience for that. So I get as good as I can get and good as I can find. And that's kind of how we look at everything as we're working through it. So narrow your focus. Pick one area to start. If you're going to start homesteading and you're living in an apartment, okay, how to start a little microgreens area, how to start growing lettuce indoors, just build your skills and your level of knowledge. This is why we say do homesteading on a small basis, because you learn as you grow.
Right. You might be like, okay, I don't like growing
lettuce. I hate
or
lettuce.
Tomatoes on the balcony. Well, then you might not want a garden. So when you do homestead, maybe you don't need to look for that flat piece of land for a garden,
Or you don't have to worry about garden. You're going to worry about, meat. You're going to focus on pigs or chickens or ducks, whatever that is. Or you could even look at it like, okay, let's try recipes. Maybe I don't like the fruits and vegetables. Maybe I don't like this kind of meat. You should try those. We've really been trying to focus on trying foods before we grow them.
Right.
Before I ever grew a beet, we tried the beets.
That's true.
And that was because I was worried about that one.
Right.
But there were some things we couldn't try.
That is the hardest part. Like when you're looking at some of these things, one we were looking at earlier, it was I'm trying to get the name of it here. Tria.
The flying dragon citrus tree.
There we go.
There we go. The flying dragon citrus tree.
So, this is one.
It's not actually a citrus.
It's not an orange, but it is citrusy. It's closer to a lemon. It's the only thing that grows in colder climates. So, I can't go grocery store and find this. I don't even know where to even go to find one to even try. So, this is one, hey, $11 a pop. We'll take the risk. If we've got something that we can use like a lemon, hey, we use a lot of lemon type things around, from a preserving standpoint. Maybe this is something we need.
Another thing is we're looking to possibly update our grapes. So we have some muscadines to try. So we're going to try the muscadines, see if we like them. We had tried them before. We didn't like them. Now we're going to try them again. These are homegrown Somebody grew them
Yes.
somewhere.
I
I know they didn't come from the grocery store like what we did. We
Mm.
tried plum cots before we started getting them, and those are amazing. We
really
love
good.
them. Apricots, all of those things, we knew we liked them before we planted them in the ground. Pears, I know I loved pears. Aaron didn't really care about that very much, but he likes peaches. The other thing is you need to dedicate time. So don't just think I'll do it whenever. Make yourself time. Like we have learned to put this on the calendar.
Yeah, because
It will get away from me.
right, or not happen.
Like I won't remember because
Right.
I live by my list of stuff to do. Like if you don't put it on there, it's probably not going to happen today. And even Aaron, if it's things to do around the house, if I don't put that on the list, he's not going to remember because I won't remember to tell him.
Right, and I'm usually thinking about 20,000 other things, so if I don't have it down on the list, I'm not going to remember it.
And it usually has to have his name by it. Like this is his responsibility because that list is more for me than it is for you.
Right.
Because that's how I know what I'm supposed to have done for the day, what I'm supposed to have done for the rest of the week. And it keeps him knowing what I'm actually doing for the day. Look for really good sources. So this is probably where it gets really hard because
What is a really good source?
what's a really good source? It depends on what you're doing. And we can't really tell you what a good source is. We think we're a good source for frugality. We think we're a good source for being a frugal homesteader. And a lot of other things. We're a good source of inspiration. Don't do what we do.
Right.
Do the opposite.
Like, I usually like to find, like, a good forum is what I always like to do.
He likes to search questions and he can find answers.
Where multiple people have answers, but where multiple people have the same answer, and then use that as one source, and then just a basic. I don't use Google so much. I use pre-search because it's not biased as much. So I use it a lot to get other opinions that doesn't get sorted.
I will go through multiple. I like books. I will go through my books. I like blogs. I like YouTube, depending on what we're doing. If I'm looking how to do something, like it's mechanical, I go to YouTube. Like that's my go-to. Like how do I do this?
The Harbor Freight greenhouse is a great example.
Yes, because they would have never have gotten this, but I had to go back and watch it over and over and over again.
There's this one guy. He put like step by step together of upping the greenhouse. Basically.
Yeah, he built like a platform up, so it was up 2 to 3 feet, which is where I've got the idea to make a taller greenhouse for us, so we can create some airflow at the bottom. That's another story. But what I would do is I found the video, I found the spot, and I would just watch it, and then I'd go do one part. Like, okay, wait, let me go do it again.
Yeah.
And I'm an instruction follower, so if you give me step-by-step instructions, I can do just about anything. Except for recipes.
I was like, just tell me what you want me to do.
Until he's like, I don't understand. Well, he's learned. He's learned to just follow... Just follow, because we're in the middle of a project right now. We're creating wood storage, and because we're creating this wood storage area, I don't think he quite understands what we're doing.
Yeah, no idea.
I asked him, I said, do you understand what we're doing? Yeah. And he doesn't understand what we're doing. I'm like, here's what I need. Go look for it.
Now that I can do.
And he's like, okay. And he's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find all of this. So we just kind of go through it and look for what we need and see what we have and what we need to get.
Yeah.
And if you find sources that are like not going to show you how to do something, even if they seem really nice and very bubbly and happy, stop. Just stop. Don't waste your time. Especially if you have only an hour dedicated to learn this, or 10 minutes in your day. You're trying to spread your time. Go to something else.
Right.
Go find someone else. There's going to be somebody out there who's going to show you how to do something. Somebody's trying to sell you a book on how to make homemade brownies. I assure you, there's a recipe out there on homemade brownies. You can go pick one of 1 billion to find. Now, they're not all cheap, but they're all basically the same recipe.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if something seems wrong, again, this is why we use multiple sources.
Well, especially with videos and the AI generated stuff anymore. Is this true? Something you read?
Well, okay, think of the recipe we made for the stuff. We were like, this seems very simple, very basic, which is great, what we were looking for. But then one of the ingredients, like, really? Really? That's an ingredient that we have to use?
I don't know what we're talking about.
It was the salt. We bought the salt for the dishwashing powder.
Oh.
Because you were like, we're putting salt in this? Mm-hmm. And it works for a lot of people. It really does. It just didn't work for us.
Right.
And it kind of threw us off. And when I looked them up, salt is a common ingredient. Yes, but there's other ingredients. We have really hard water that we weren't okay with.
Right.
So just if something seems wrong, if you're like, this really, like, trust your instincts here.
And read some more, research
Look some more.
Yeah.
Like if you're watching somebody and they're like, yeah, it's okay if it sparks and catches on fire. Just like, you should be like, what?
I'd be like, no, it ain't.
And then go to the next one. If he's like, yeah, it's okay, it'll spark a little bit, it won't catch on fire, but there might be a little spark, some people are a bit over dramatic. We understand that. We're from the South. That's part of being a Southern. You're a little dramatic. And especially some of them good old boys. Yep. Which is good. It's what makes it fun.
Yep, definitely.
So is there anything else you want to add? You're all about the research. He really focuses on, he gets so much good information from the forums.
And a lot of times I'm just looking for multiple confirmations from multiple people that what I'm thinking is on the same line of thought as somebody else.
But you still have to deal with all the fluff.
You do. You have to sort through it. You sort through the self-promotion, sort through
the people who think they know what they're talking about but don't.
Right, and then you're like, nobody's saying anything back on that one, so I'm not even considering that, like a good example right now, I've been trying to find me a new wallet. I thought I found one. It must have went out of stock. I didn't order it in time. It's been one of those things, I'm researching, looking through multiple ones, trying to find
the reviews, checking what other people use.
What other people use, what are their complaints about this, and trying to look for my specific needs of what I'm trying to find, stuff like that. I'll might look at today some, might look at tomorrow some, might look at 2 weeks from now some more, just research,
I like to use, when I do this, I go to some groups I'm in, like especially for like the non-toxic, like looking for good alternatives. We were looking for some deodorant alternatives. So I thought I had one. Well, no, when you go non-toxic, not everything that's labeled non-toxic is actually non-toxic, unfortunately. Or even though it seems non-toxic, it doesn't actually mean it is non-toxic. So I look through these posts and read through the comments to see what other people are doing and what other people are using and what the consensus is. So it's very much the same. So if you're a part of canning groups, anything like that, anything where you're learning together as a group, you can use that as a resource. But again, you have to know what you're willing to trust and what you're not willing to trust.
Right.
You have to use your own discretion on this.
And don't always trust the same source over and over. Still do your research too.
They can be wrong. Or you might not agree with it.
Right.
I watch people I don't agree with a lot of the times. Aaron does too. We don't agree with 100% of what these people say because we've done it differently. We look at it differently, and that's okay. I don't want a separate line item for all of our household goods on our budget. That to us was draining. It was exhausting, and it was so hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
And for us, having it in miscellaneous just works better. But other people would look at our miscellaneous and see it in our budget. They'd be like, I would drive me nuts. What's in there? What are you using that money for? Why do you need it to say miscellaneous? Why isn't it broken out in 20 different categories? Because that doesn't work for us.
Right.
We tried that.
Right. We have.
So it really just depends on what you're looking for. How you need to lay it out and what you need to do. But there are some basic steps to follow. So just remember, the biggest thing is an area of focus. Don't try to read the whole book on it. Don't try to write the book on it. Just start in one spot, one place, like a pinpoint on a map. Like you're throwing a map at it and you're like, hey, let's start here, right here at the beginning.
Yeah.
And build from there.
Yeah. Well, if you got any comments, questions, anything you want to hear in a future episode, you can either leave those down below or send them to thecannycouple@yahoo.com. And then make sure to go over and check out our link tree, which has links to all of our other content. And
as always, thank you for joining us on The Canny Couple, where we work hard, live simple, and enjoy life. Have a wonderful day.